yeah, it's not going well, we need to practice harder, it's really bad right now, we need to play better. And they're really open about how they feel. This is on me. This is something that I have to change. I could have played better. That might have been enough for us to win. So it's always just looking at themselves first before they are looking at a teammate and, for example, say, yeah, he screwed that up. So it's a really cool mentality to have, that you always look at yourself for improvement first.
Okay, well, it's time to look at the draft here, and I hope BlossoM changes things up. Last time they came out and they opened up with a new brick ban, which made me believe, okay, they're going for a aggressive warrior pick, right? And they just completely went a different route.
One of the reasons why they banned Anubarak is just that Tempest is so successful with the hero, especially at the tournament here. They haven't lost a single game when they drafted Anubarak yet. Also, I just want to highlight that we've been talking a lot about Malfurion. Tempest at this point is 5-0 with Malfurion. So it's really their backbone. You can tell how much utility the hero brings to their playstyle. We saw the roots always as the follow-up, and even if you couldn't use them as a follow-up, there was always be used to cut paths of retreat off to allow another power slide to lock the target down even more. But BlossoM seems way more afraid of this aggressive playstyle that Anubarak enables, so we see him banned out for the second time in a row now by BlossoM.
All right, and Tempest is obviously not really eager on playing against Maiev.
Who is?
Yeah, who is really at this point. But it's interesting that you brought up the Anubarak Kaldor, because it's one of the heroes that Gondor really liked to play a lot, and I think considering how it hasn't really been his turn up to this point, he was doing okay on the Anubarak. Now, however, that is a clever response. No Anubarak means no cocoons for the Tracer, means no warrior to really keep her in check up to this point.
I mean, and then you get what everyone's been talking about, Tracer and Malfurion, for what, 3-4 weeks now, and how strong that synergy is between those two. BlossoM, what is your plan to stop this coming your way?
An interesting part about Tempest's style at the tournament so far has also been that they only play Tracer once. Now, they highlighted Malfurion a lot. This is now the 6th time that they play him, but they only went for the combo a single time, and they were successful there. So they haven't really shown it too much. It has always been a staple at the Western Clash, also here at the Eastern, and they rely on it again. And as you guys said, I want a response from BlossoM, and if anything, this is the game where I would have maybe expected Varian.
Varian second pick, let's go, right? Like, this is a moment where you have that tank come out that can lock her down and control her, because that's definitely an issue that a lot of teams have had a problem with, trying to handle Tracer, because if she is able to get through any damage that you do throw her way, she is going to dictate the fight.
The question is, are you actually afraid of Varian at that point? You just saw what it did in the first game, and as much as I hate to admit it, it did very little. Almost nothing.
Because they didn't draft for it.
Yeah, they didn't draft for it. Now with this Garrosh, though, they have another taunting warrior. A warrior that is much more fit for this tournament meta. The Garrosh, the Warlord's Challenge, can actually ruin a Tracer's day. So I really like what we're seeing here from BlossoM. Much more standard, less crazy. I think they were trying to go for something extraordinary in Game 1. They didn't really make it work, and now they're trying to settle things down. Let's see how we can go in standard against him.
I think the difference between Garrosh and Varian, Varian's picked to ruin Tracer's day alone. Garrosh is picked to ruin everyone else's day. If you find a pick on a Malfurion or any other tank and get your team to focus it down, suddenly the composition of Tempest is that significantly weaker. You can pay a little bit more attention towards that Tracer that's trying to get that angle to come in for a Pulse Bomb. So Garrosh is definitely a very viable pick here, and one that we've already seen from BlossoM.
Now, a hero, sorry, Kaldor, a hero that I am quite excited to see potentially coming up in this series is Falstad. Falstad has been a hero that was used multiple times, even by Tempest yesterday when they had that spectacular boss deal against SBT. Do you think we are going to see the Birdman, or is he still going to be kept for later?
I mean, traditionally I would say straight up no, especially on the side of BlossoM, because we have Tracer as the factor on Tempest's side. And usually Genji deters me a bit from picking Falstad for the other team. But we have seen exactly that pick several times now at the Eastern Clash.
From a Western point of view, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, the Western teams usually don't like to go for Falstad when you have a very mobile hero, as for example Genji on the other side, since they feel he can't fulfill his role as the solo global laner anymore. Since once he goes onto a solo lane, Genji will be there trying to pick him off, or any kind of rotation heading his way. So he loses a global factor a lot more. But the teams at the Eastern Clash have a bit of a different approach. They're not really afraid to go into that 1-versus-1 matchup. So I personally, coming from the Western side, still not really a fan, but I could see an Eastern team say, you know what, we want to have the global here. Dehaka is not our answer. Falstad is something where we get control over, first of all, the boss, and then also we have a side laner as long as we keep track on where Genji is. So I could see it coming in on the side of Tempest. For BlossoM, I think it would be ill-advised.
And I just want to see a cooldown at this point. I mean, speaking of heroes that are kind of popular in the Western scene, that have known to work at the Western Clash, against that Uther, I can't believe how much focus there is in the Eastern scene on Uther, and how little counterplay there seems to be from those teams. Really trying to think, like, what can we do to punish that greedy Uther play? No cooldown this time, obviously, with Junkrat being locked down, and that's cool. That's a good replacement, if you will. Oftentimes, Junkrats can bait out those juicy cooldowns from Uther with just one combo alone. I'm down with that.
Yeah, instead you get more of a safer poke option with the Junkrat, looking to put a little bit of damage on the Uther, similar to what you were asking for on the Gul'dan, just not as straight up effective at the front loaded part, but over time he will sustain down your opponents and give Uther that stress that you were talking about. Then you also have the Tracer to follow up and get that kill, very similar to a lot of comps that we're seeing nowadays, finding someone that can open up a fight, and that's a can opener, and then you have someone going in and going hard on that can of tuna and finishing off, and that's Tracer here.
Tracer actually having a good time up to this point, I think. Tracer in this tournament so dominating, especially when you have players like Dami on it, who's probably going to play it. I can't wait to see what he has in store for that hero.
Yeah, Tracer has been picked in 87%, or has been involved in 87% of the games. Also a pretty high ban rate against her, has been banned out in 45%. It's pretty significant when you consider how much of a staple she's been here.
There's something new.
For the first time, okay, there's our X-Factor that we've asking for.
BlossoM is not going to play this series normally. That much we can say. The Wizarden is here. He's going to be deployed to Sky Temple. And as much as Tempest really respects Wiz, you can see that with Zertul ban here as well. Can they handle the Illidan protected now by 2 shields, Divine Shields, and of course the Force of Will by Medivh?
I like it as an aggressive touch. I have to say that normally when you would see the draft, you would say, okay, is that really the answer? But I love that with how things were going for them so far, they are willing to risk something. First of all, Medivh does already incredibly well with Garrosh. The portal into a taunt is fantastic and can be used by them here. And then you have Illidan as an additional factor. He also provides you with a pseudo-global on the off lanes that you can play the macro game. It's a risk, it's aggressive, but I like it for the position that they are in right now. This is really a slot where you want to try something aggressive. But I have also to say that I love Tempest's reaction heading into a blaze, which gives you another defensive utility tool.
Yep, just trying to make sure they don't get that fight that they want. Illidan typically in a 5v5 is in a scenario where he's not fully where he wants to be. Illidan really likes that spot where they get that first kill. The moment you get that and Illidan can chase someone down across the battleground, that's where he's a happy panda. Well, a happy elf. But we'll see how that's going to pay off for them now with the Illidan coming in. We got the Medivh mixing it up. Thank you, BlossoM, for mixing up your drafts. The last time we saw this was from the one with their Illidan on Cursed Hollow, and that adjustment was enough for them to get a big victory.
I need a lore master here. Is Illidan an elf?
Absolutely, he's a night elf.
True, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm blanking, I'm sorry.
Counter Demon Hunter, Warcraft 3.
Yeah, I'm blanking, I'm blanking.
No, but
you casted Warcraft 3 for
I'm
like
blanking.
19 years.
Come on, give me a break. Like, I had a brain fart.
All right, but you made a really good point there, Trick. I mean, this is how the one should have played yesterday when they faced BlossoM, right? They were supposed to have this hyper-aggressive place, and when they did this one time, it worked out flawlessly for them. So I like that BlossoM is like, you know what, we're the underdogs, but if we're going to have a chance in this game, we're going to go guns blazing, we're going to play our own style, and up to this point, it looks very promising, Trick.
Well, let's go to the Wild Wild West. Sky Temple here, guns a-blazing, Tempest versus BlossoM, and we'll see how it pays off. Illidan, yesterday we had them pick up the Unending Hatred, which is a Seasoned Marksman pickup for the Illidan, and it seems to be the same thing here for BlossoM on game number 1. Very interesting to see if we'll have that hunt come in, which I'm assuming to be the pickup. That global, or any pseudo-global, is great on Sky Temple.
Now, if it is going to be the hunt route, though, then Illidan Wiz, in that case, has to be super careful. He has to actually rely on himself or his teammates counting cooldowns, because if he uses it on, let's say, the Tracer, the Malfurion, there are so many disengaging tools. There we go. Struggling a little bit there. The Junkrat displacement, the Bunker, the Twilight Dream, Tracer recalls. There are so many cooldowns Illidan has to play around that I think it's not going to be an easy hunt for him.
There is definitely a lot of traps on the side of Tempest that can handle that hunt coming their way. First off, Blaze dropping down, the Bunker being available, the Ice Block at level 13 on the Malfurion, Tracer with recall as you just mentioned, even just a actual trap from Junkrat. If it sees this coming in on target, dropping at their foot, Illidan can't be caught. But we'll see if Illidan can get the engage they want. Typically when you play hunt and you run into that situation where you get picked off, you learn pretty quickly not to pull that off again.
And for all of you guys who are a little confused here, this is still the old Medivh. We're not going to have any new shenanigans in here. We're still going to have the good old portal build.
Yeah.
Of course, allows the team to play a little bit more flexibly when it comes to engaging from hidden angles, when it comes to evacuating people as well.
Sure.
The new Medivh is a little bit more team fight oriented, I would say, with a lot of shielding value, with a lot of Raven value as well, regenerating mana and health, etc., etc.
Yep, still old Medivh. The new young Medivh is still partying in Hearthstone. He'll be here soon in Heroes, eventually in the competitive scene.
Young Medivh? That sounds like a rapper.
Yeah, young Medivh. I mean,
Young Metal.
yeah.
Yeah, something along those lines.
He has a beard for it. He could probably get it done. BlossoM and Tempest are now working up in their night camps. BlossoM playing pretty smart here, though, and waiting. This is becoming more of a trend in a lot of our games when it comes to night camps. You wait for the opposing team, the team that wants to try and find a little momentum, to push in first, and then you grab your night camp afterwards. You get to answer back with the addition of the turret defense, and you're in a spot where you win the tug of war, and you can make the play from there. Do you want to keep pushing in with the night camp, or do you want to get some value somewhere else on the map by having your Illidan maybe get aggressive on the bottom lane?
Absolutely. Illidan is one of the best single split pushers in the game, hands down, especially when he has access to that hunt so he can join his teammates if they needed him. Actually, when there's an Illidan in the game, you're always going to have to be on the lookout in the late game for those initial core calls as well. There we go.
BlossoM actually heavily mistimed this. You want to have the camp coming in right when it's near your turrets, that way you have the defense.
That was
and
way
Tempest
too early.
was able to get the easy defense. However, BlossoM is wanting to change it a little bit here. They get aggressive. They look for Hyde. Hyde's getting low. Modern, do you have the missile? He has it, but the heal at the last second keeps Hyde alive. And now Tracer, she's ready to go to town.
Tommy actually missing his ult there as well very closely because the mobility here was just too much to handle. Oftentimes the pulse bomb is a little bit tricky to land if there are heroes like, let's say, a Genji.
Whoops.
Tommy actually not having a good start in this game. He ends up biting the dust. Here we go. In the meantime, we see Ballistics, BlossoM trying to really lick their wounds. They just took a little bit of a beating there. The mercenary camp is still pushing on, and I love how Tempest is playing this. They're trying to maintain up the pressure here in the top lane, keeping that temple under control. One tower's falling after the other.
Yeah, and this is a spot where an Illidan loves to be in. When there's two objectives on the battleground, and if you don't put the proper amount of resources on said battleground, and Illidan can come in and can find that number advantage we discussed in the draft, they will move in for the fight. Now, Illidan's in the middle lane here, trying to see how Tempest is going to react to BlossoM and the temple's being grabbed so he can move in and force a fight. Dami, however, is forcing the fight early here. He goes straight for the Song here, who's getting bullied out by an Uther, by the way. Good at the same time, even with the Pyromaniac, gets popped there by Modern and Doodoo, getting the kill, and suddenly BlossoM is in the lead.
Feels Medivh, man. That portal was so well timed there as well, allowing everybody to just retreat. Oftentimes when you go in aggressively on a kill, you end up being the one who actually takes more damage because you're going to get retaliated from the enemy team. But Medivh allows those super challenging mechanical plays with a portal. As long as that one is ready, you're going to be in a fine spot.
Master's Touch coming online on level 7. We'll watch Medivh and see how he gets that finished up. Junkrat was able to answer back and push in that bottom lane, which BlossoM did miss out on some experience, so that equals out that experience lead that BlossoM was able to snag with those 2 kills. Temple's also shelling away on both lanes. Middle lane low here on the right side for Tempest. BlossoM low in the top left corner, which is usually a better spot for Tempest to be in. If they can push in that top lane with a Blaze, they should be able to take down that fort and jump an experience before the next Temple phase.
Now, of course, we have reached a very special moment in the life of every Medivh
Is it your
career.
birthday?
Maybe.
Okay. You said special moment. I got excited.
Not for me, unfortunately, but for every little Medivh in there, because the Master's Touch has been unlocked. And the new Medivh, guys, remember, it's baseline. You can actually complete it way earlier if you're doing well on your queues. But here, we're going to have to see how long it takes Medivh to actually complete this wonderful quest in this game.
Look how much more confident Gandor is on this Garrosh.
I love it. He looks like a different man, like a different orc.
He's had a couple of aggressive pushes. He's gotten a couple of good picks so far. BlossoM definitely a good spot when they have Garrosh on said hero. And speaking of it, gonna have a portal going forward. Gandor goes in, missing out on the smash sadly, so he can't go in for a throw. But that aggression is available for them.
Did you just see what Junkrat was doing in Malfurion as well? They were doing, they were using all their zoning potential, like the Percussion Mine, the Entangling Roots, to really block those portal entrances. So all the members of BlossoM are gonna think twice whether they really want to step through or just remain in the backline, because it's so risky sometimes to actually just walk in there, massive AoE root, massive AoE knockback, and all of a sudden Tempest in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that's something that you have to worry about as a Medivh player. A gets better at level 13 when you're able to get that duration lowered a little bit, or increased, so you're able to jump around a little bit more, making it harder for the roots to consistently be there. But BlossoM now about to hit level 10, but so is Tempest. Here's the big news though. BlossoM has allowed for Illidan to stay in the top lane, and if he is left uncontested, you mentioned how strong Illidan can be as a pusher. He will break down that fort pretty darn easily due to the experience. Tempest does have Blaze, so Blaze will be able to slow down that wave clear and be helpful in that area, but if Illidan's able to bounce around these certain lanes and come down with a hunt before Blaze can show up into the fight, that means there's no bunker.
Yeah, at some point we're also going to have to ask ourselves who's got better boss control, because as time goes by, there's a bigger chance, there's a bigger possibility for one of the teams to actually try to make a play there potentially. And we don't really have those big decision makers like Turiel in there, we don't have Foster with a Mighty Gus. So I think when it comes to fighting over control over the boss, I think both teams are going to be pretty equal. Maybe with a leyline seal, we don't get to see it. We get the poly bomb instead, a decision which I'm not really agreeing with when it comes to boss control. However, Trick, what happens if you drop the poly bomb after everyone gets out of the bunker?
Exactly. That's the major issue here with the poly bomb. Being able to spread it around that bunker will be annoying for Tempest. They have to be in control of when they jump into said bunker. And they're looking to force a fight, actually. Running down here to the south, Sign goes in for a power slide, jumps right on a Genji, but he's able to switch right out. Gondor as well. Hits the pulse bomb, but gets a force of will, and BlossoM stops the major front-loaded part of the damage coming in from Tempest, while Illidan pushes in the middle lane and takes a fort without even... Wait a minute, can he get out? Can he get out? Okay, he's going to be able to finally get out.
That's going to be a tricky mission here. Unfortunately, for Tempest, though, there were so many heroes coming in from BlossoM as reinforcements to cause a little bit of confusion, a little bit of distraction. So Illidan, the MVP, is now escorted to safety here. Another point that I wanted to raise here when it comes to talking about that polybomb is oftentimes, you know, when you want to deal with a Tracer who goes in very deeply, you use that short time window. You put her in that sheep form, and you're going to punish her hard. Right wing disappearing out of the meta, Medivh being the replacement Fairy Dragon, if you will, in that case.
And give you time to walk up and get that Uther stun, which becomes equally more effective once that Benediction hits at level 16. Definitely.
And the taunt on top of it?
Exactly. Polybomb is a great tool here for BlossoM. Now, Tempest, I know this, so Tracer's going to be a little bit more careful and make sure not to put herself in a position. But there's a lot of trade-off between these teams and their heroics, and it'll be fun to see how exactly it unfolds. Tempest, speaking of trades, have grabbed the Knight Count at the top left, and they are looking to get pretty aggressive on top of this fort that's already been lowered on health.
Here comes Good now. With a Blaze on top, they can definitely try to siege it up a little bit more. In the meantime, Sign pretty far back. Looks like they're content with just getting the top fort for now. No major commitment to any team fighting. I like that. Once again, look at Illidan. They aren't even trying to defend this with a full team fight. They're just trying to let Illidan stack up a little bit more, accumulate more damage, and him just dealing damage to those buildings overall.
Yeah, with Tempest identifying and knowing what the plan is for Illidan, they are willing to commit a little bit more often to breaking down forts, because they understand that eventually it will come down to a team fight around the temples if you have the lead on the infrastructure in the game. If Illidan is unable to trade out forts faster than your 5-man is killing forts, then you are in the lead. And Tempest knows this, takes the top fort and the bottom fort, and I've already put a little damage here in the middle, and they have Junkrat spread out to the side. Now, with 2 temples activating, that issue of where is Illidan going to be is still there, but if Tempest can come out ahead here on this temple phase, take down a fort and start looking towards keep pressure, and Illidan still has forts to break down on the side of Tempest side, that means Tempest is definitely in the lead there and continue to force 5v5s.
Now, Trick, I'm going to tell you, my HGC China caster senses are tingling a little bit. I want to see more action, you know. But the way the map is shaped and the way these temples are spawning, it just allows BlossoM to buy more time, getting a little bit more value for the Illidan here. 2 temples now, they're pretty far away from each other, so none of the teams really has to make a move necessarily. All the keeps are still in fairly good condition. So I think with the next temple phase, maybe we're going to see a little bit more action, because as time goes by on Sky Temple, you don't really have the freedom anymore to just give up on those objectives.
Illidan is definitely powering up. That is completely correct here on that level 1, but he still has to deliver on the team fight, right? He has to have the hunt that comes in and is effective. Illidan is a little bit weaker than a whoopee cushion. He will pop if he gets into the wrong fight right away. So BlossoM will have to consider that, but eventually that team fight is coming. You are completely correct. And BlossoM groups up in the middle lane here. They are missing a Genji, so they have to be careful.
Genji is still not there. He's trying to route around the map here, really reinforcing his ally side. The portals are used. The Garrosh trying to get something done here. As long as he holds that temple with that massive work body, though, they're definitely going to be in a good shape. But Tempest is not willing to let go that easily. ETC blocking things off here. Medivh in Raven form has good overview of what's going on. Illidan actually waiting near that choke point there, trying to initiate on a target that is... There goes! He goes on his brother!
Goes straight onto Malfurion, jumping onto him. At the same time, we'll be able to dash on out. Gonna have a Force Will come in, but the Pulse Bomb connects, and Garrosh will fall. Illidan getting locked down by a root. He has to escape, but a Mosh Pit to lock down Genji, and they will get the kill.
They did get the kill, so patiently done there by Sign, wondering when is Genji going to run out of that Divine Shield. He was so spot on with that timing as well. And speaking of timing, Dami's spike bomb there, it was perfectly timed. It exploded when Medivh's shield was no longer on the target. It was just going so well from Tempest, and they do exactly what they're supposed to. They're trying to capitalize on their victory. Very often, very frequently in this tournament have we seen that teams are not able to capitalize on their victories, especially the Chinese teams have disappointed in that regard. But Tempest, they're stone cold. They're trying to win this game right here, right now.
Well, they capitalize on their kills and take a boss. 16's right around the corner for them as well, so they can group up and push in this bottom lane. They even brought Blaze back to the top left to clear out that lane and get it pushing forward. Illidan heads up to that top right corner, but he's not going to be able to take a keep as fast as Tempest can. Tempest groups up, they're ready for their engage, and they have the smallest of windows before BlossoM gets 16 themselves.
Yeah, and at this point, Illidan can no longer afford to do his solo stuff, right? He needs to be with this team right now. Every man is needed to defend this keep, because if that keep falls very quickly and the boss is still sitting above 50% health, that could be a clean core call.
Certainly, especially with Pulse Bomb and the ability to blow up a target with a Twilight Dream. Wiz comes in with the hunt. The instant Nature's Calling comes out from high. Dami looks towards Wiz. The evasion will help out for now. At the same time, a Polybomb does connect into a taunt, and we do have the Polybomb connecting with multiple members, but the bunker is here for the Savior, and BlossoM is trying to escape.
And here comes the Riptire, finding a target, connecting as well on the Illidan. That is the hyper carry of BlossoM. The core is still exposed. The boss is haunting and pounding on it, and the core is falling. The shield is down. No longer is BlossoM out of in position to really take this earth behind the red team.
This is game. Tempest in a completely great position. Dudu goes in for a little bit of harassment, hoping to look a little fancy, but he's not going to be able to get a kill. And Tempest, with a kill on the boss, push forward and get a 2-0 over BlossoM.
I'm going to tell you this one thing, Trixler. Although Tempest wasn't the team featuring the Illidan, they played like they were the team with it. They were the ones who actually turned on the aggression there. Illidan coming a little bit too late there in that fight as well, and they were going for this very motivated and aggressive core call, but they just had it all calculated. So well played.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was such a good strength here by Tempest, is they never allowed a situation for them to use a major cooldown that was important for them to fight Illidan if he did come in. They played safe, but they poked just enough to allow for BlossoM to keep backing up and never take that 5v4.
You can really tell why KSV Black has so much respect for Tempest. I mean, that was really impressive. They fell behind in kills at the start, kept even in experience, and then through that one battle, a double kill, boss, and all of a sudden, what looked like just a keep turned into a goal for the core, and they just know exactly when to close out a game. Very reminiscent of what we've seen with Fnatic at the Western Clash, when they knew, okay, here we can end the game right here and we don't have to delay things. So it was extremely well coordinated.
Yeah, I can't believe how they really shut down every aggressive move that BlossoM was trying to do. They just ignore the Illidan for the most part, and they rally up, they group up, and take structures in the meantime. And Illidan is really good at that, don't take me wrong, but he can mess with the speed of 4 or 5 members of Tempest, constantly, you know, bringing BlossoM at the brink of defeat. Just like they did in Game 1 against the Variant, they never really let BlossoM unfold their battle plan.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if we were on a different battleground, if Illidan wouldn't have been able to get that time that he wants.
I think that's actually one of the better ones for them.
I mean, Illidan can do okay there, but typically if you have a map like Cursed Hollow, that threat of Illidan is actually a little bit more scary because you don't have a map objective that's instantly hitting your infrastructure.
And I also feel a lot of it had to do with Blaze being available for the bunker.
Exactly.
Whenever we had that portal and Garrosh went through and tried to initiate a fight, the first thing that happens is that Blaze drops the bunker and they're absolutely fine. They get the extra armor, they make the dance happen, and then we saw the Riptire coming in, blowing Illidan to pieces. But it always started with bunker being used and completely negating the impact of the aggression that BlossoM was trying to show.
And once again, Dami just couldn't be contained. It really seems to me like Rich, Dami, those two are probably one of the more impactful assassin players in this tournament. Although there was a Medivh with a Force of Will to really try and negate all that spike bomb damage, it wasn't enough. I mean, sure, there was good timing by Dami as well, but the execution may have been a little bit too much for a team like BlossoM to make work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to say something.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I think Dami and Rich right now are having a better tournament than SESC. If you actually look at how they were playing, they are that much more confident, being able to land those kills, and are being very impactful for their teams. That's what you want in your carries.
And at this point, you have to ask yourself if there's anything that BlossoM can do to come back into the series. Falling 2 games behind is always a huge problem, and just from the way that you approach, and just from a confidence level, it's already a bit of a deal breaker there. But from a strategy perspective, it also seems that there's just nothing that they can really do. Game 1, you kind of could shrug it off and say, okay, the draft didn't really have a synergy. That was not really a key to winning the game. But now in the second one, when they tried aggression, they were immediately shut down. It feels very difficult for them to break through that now.
I think there's two things BlossoM could potentially consider. It is A, pick a map that maybe has only two lanes, sorry. So the game won't necessarily go into the late game that Tempest is so good at, and that also caters a little bit towards your team fighting capabilities, because I think in raw team fighting, BlossoM could see the chance to win. As long as the game goes longer, as long as there are more macro involved, like on maps with Dragon's Fair or Sky Temple, they're just getting outpowered.